Hi and welcome to the long overdue roundup of week 6, 7 and 8 on www.TheScore.lk from a schools league which has had so many things happening in those last 3 weeks. We've been unable to keep up, which is part of the reason why we've not been presenting you the update, because there's so much that's been going on, so much that needs to be talked about as well. Not all of it good, unfortunately, and not all of it about rugby. But let's get into that update by giving you the results from week 6 and 7 first. In week 6, we had Dharmaraja College, which was the only team to win away from home, who beat Wesley convincingly 36 points to 24. We had St. Anthony's, who were leading in the first half against Trinity, but eventually succumbed to that late burst, which has now become so familiar with the Trinity College team. That did that this weekend as well, 22 points to 14. Trinity won that game. And then we had Kingswood, who picked up their first win of the tournament by beating Isipatana at home by 27 points to 17. And we had St. Peter's College, who managed to win over Science in that much talked about encounter at St. Peter's College grounds by 29 points to 23. That was a game after which Garmin Indrasena was suspended for 2 weeks. He was the referee in charge of that game. And we had Science College also, who had to suspend their vice captain and one of their coaches as well for all the incidents that took place after the game. Science College accusing Garmini, who was the referee, of going over time in that game. So the Referee Society has obviously found some merit in some of the allegations against the referee and have suspended him for 2 weeks. Nothing near as bad as what happened to Pradeep Fernando, but we'll get to that in just a little while. But Science College, luckily, taking action against their supporters and their team members who were involved in that incident. It was a very ugly incident, and I think the referees took a strong stand by saying we are not going to blow any more Science matches and forced Science College's hand. Nadine Mohammed came forward and said that they had suspended one of their coaches and their vice captain, and at least some action was taken in that entire incident. So that's something that we need to be thankful for. So referees taking a stand and the schools bowing down to that. That's good to see. Then we had Royal College taking on St. Joseph's in a very drab encounter, I must say, and Royal managed to win that one 14 points to 7. Just a one try scored by each team. 8 points to 7 it was for a while, and that was the heralding of St. Joseph's comeback sort of into the season. They had gone off the boil after the first week, but then started coming back with the advent of Sanath Martis into their coaching team. They dropped Jason Melder for that game. He didn't start the game. He came on in about 20 minutes into the first half, and that's when things really started to galvanize with the Josephians. They came within 1 point, but just didn't have enough quality to beat the Royal side that had more quality through it from 1 through to 15. Not that they were a great team, but St. Joseph's just weren't good enough to beat them in that week. Moving on to week 7, of course, so we had some interesting results there as well. We had Science playing Wesley. That might have been a good game, but unfortunately Science, after all the incidents that they've had in the past, they just weren't able to put the team together properly on the field and be focused mentally, and they went down to Wesley, who played a nice hard running game against a team that plays very much similar rugby to them, and that was the undoing of the Science College team, because they couldn't play with the team that was faster and bigger than them, and 25 points to 14 was how that one finished. We have St. Peter's travelling up to Kingswood, and Kingswood, who only had their first win of the tournament the week before, absolutely annihilated St. Peter's College by 41 points to 15. A completely unexpected result, of course, in the respect that it wasn't expected to be that much of a margin. Of course, I thought Kingswood might actually win that one, but it looked like they won it very, very convincingly. Then we had Isipatana playing Royal in that controversial match where Royal actually walked off the field because Isipatana were allegedly eye gouging. Then we had the whole video release showing the incidents from that game. Some of those incidents, I must say, were a little innocuous and didn't warrant a walkout, but what did happen was that most of those incidents didn't get caught onto the camera, and there were some serious injuries to some of the Royal College players, and we don't like to see that. Don't like to see players from any school injured, and there was an inquiry. Of course, we'll get into how that one finished in just a little bit as well. And the other result for the evening, or the weekend rather, St. Joseph's beating Trinity. That was the big upset of week 7, 18 points to 17, and they were leading 18-10. Trinity came back again with their late storm and managed to get within 1 point. It was just too little too late though for the Trinitians on that occasion. They've come from behind and won so many games, but this time it just wasn't enough gas in the tank for them. Because St. Joseph's played an outstanding game. Jason Melder once again leading from the front after his dropping. I think he got a bit of a wake-up call, and now he's making sure that his team are playing the best rugby that they possibly can play. So 18 points to 17, massive upset, biggest upset of the season so far. We had the bottom team beating one of the top teams, and that really put paid to Trinity's chances of the title. Dharmaraja now remain the only unbeaten team. Of course, some more controversy surrounding their game in the following week as well. We'll get to that in just a moment too. and 18 points to 17, a fabulous win for the Josephines. They were absolutely cock-a-hoop, and no real incidents after the game as well. Nobody pointing fingers at the referee, which was very good to see. Then we had the Dharmaraja versus St. Anthony's game. St. Anthony's trying manfully in the first half, but going down to a very strong Dharmaraja side, much bigger, much fitter, much stronger than any of the teams that they have met so far, except maybe with the exception of Trinity, where they drew 34 all. But they have been the outstanding team of the tournament so far, and they were just too much for St. Anthony's to handle. That match played, of course, up in Kandy, and Dharmaraja winning that one 48 points to 26, a very convincing win. So coming back to that Royal Isipatana game, we had Royal walking out alleging that they were getting eye gouts and the referee was taking no action about it. We saw the video. I'm sure everybody watching this has seen that video that Royal College had put out. For me, what was most controversial about that video was the fact that Pradeep Fernando did not award two clear as day tries. At least the first one, there was absolutely no doubt about it. The fact that the Royal player fell over with the ball, he grounded the ball, absolutely no problem, and Pradeep blew held up and awarded a 5-meter scrum. Now, I'm not sure what that call was all about, but that is what shows me that the refereeing was not up to the mark. And obviously, if that game management issue is coming up, then obviously attending violence and things that are contrary to the spirit of the game is something that the referee can't be expected to look at competently if he's not going to be able to award such a important fundamental call as that try clearly was. So that was something that the Referee Society took into consideration as well when they suspended Pradeep Fernando for, get this, one entire year. So that's a very harsh punishment that has been meted out by the Referee Society against Pradeep Fernando, and they're showing that they're taking some accountability and saying that, look, the refereeing wasn't good enough and that was something that needed to be taken care of. Now, what the Schools Association has done is they conducted an inquiry into the incident. They looked at the video evidence that Royal provided to them, but they took a long time doing it. And unfortunately, when there is an allegation of violence against a team, it doesn't matter whether it's Isipatana or any team, then that incident needs to be looked at well before that team goes on to play their next game. So you've got a week's gap between Saturday and Friday in which teams generally play, and that incident needs to be investigated, and if the culprits are found, they should not be allowed to play the next couple of games. So what happened here was Isipatana were not under investigation even before they played St. Peter's on Thursday of the next week. So that was a real problem, and the Schools Association needs to act, and it needs to act fast. Now, the problem I had with the Schools Association is that they didn't really do anything. They brought back the score from 27-20 to 20 all and have awarded both teams a draw, which means that they will share the points for that game, which I think is a fair result overall. But the fact remains that they needed to take some action. They needed to tell Royal, look, you can't walk off in a game. That's a referee's issue. That's a match commissioner's issue. You guys can't take the law into their own hands. They needed to tell Royal that, and at the same time, they also needed to make sure that their action was taken against the clear violations of the law and the spirit of the game that were evident even on the video that was edited by Royal College. It doesn't matter if it was edited. These guys can't CGI manufacture green jerseys of people to poke other people in the eye, and that was clearly evident on the video, and I think some action should have been taken. The Schools Association should have been stronger, I think, not only against Isipatana and its players, but also against Royal. They should have had a suspended sentence or something like that saying you can't walk off in a game. That will send a message to the other schools who have problems with the refereeing to sort it out before the match or at halftime and sort it out with discussion, rather than resorting to these tactics. But I must say that if Royal didn't do that, I don't think they would have gotten any redress. That was their biggest issue, and I think they had to take the law into their own hands, just like we talk about Arjuna Ranatunga in 1995 taking the law into his hands by almost walking off the grounds. I think Royal took a stand that they felt needed to be taken, and something has come of it. This Referee Society has admitted that they have some responsibility to bear as well. So at least some good has come of it, but I hope that this doesn't go any further than it needs to be, and disciplinary action is taken against some of the Isipatana players who are found wanting by Isipatana's own authorities, and I think that's the way this needs to be sorted out. Everybody needs to look inwards and see what are we doing wrong, how are we contributing to the ugliness that is unfolding in this schools arena, and I think they need to take those actions for themselves. Then we came to week 8, which was of course last week, and we had Dharmaraja winning not handsomely, but they won once again against St. Joseph's, 22 points to 20, and that was a controversial game because we had an issue with the Viper Gunaratna and his own team after the game, but more important than that, we had a massive issue where Dharmaraja, despite winning 22 points to 20 after trailing by 15 points to 20 in the last 3 minutes of the game, they managed to score a hat-trick of tries through Boneka Udangamu, their big burly centre. He was the guy who scored the hat-trick for them and got them pretty much all their points, really. He managed to get them on the board scored in the final 3 minutes as well, and they managed to win that game not comfortably at all. They would have been really scared. The supporters would have been wondering, is this unbeaten tag going to be going away for us? But fortunately for them, they were able to hold on by the skin of their teeth against a very competent St. Joseph's side. So the fact remains that after the match, Charit Kodagada, who refereed that game, was assaulted by Dharmaraja spectators. Dharmaraja have not denied this incident, so it can only be seen as that their silence is an admission of the fact that their supporters were the ones involved. So unfortunately, what the good work that Dharmaraja are doing on the pitch are being undone by their supporters on the outside. It's not the first time that Dharmaraja have been involved in any sort of incidents like this. There have been issues even after the Wesley game. There was a little bit of tension, and even in Kandy there have been some incidents where even after Dharmaraja have won games that their supporters have been very aggressive. So that's something that Dharmaraja need to look at, and their supporters need to look at and say, are we doing what this team deserves? This team is an unbeaten team. Do we need to take that away from them? If this inquiry yields something, and if this yields the fact that that Dharmaraja are not going to be allowed to play in the league, or they're suspended, or they're forfeited one match or something, then that could really come back to hamper what has been an outstanding season for them. So all I'm saying is, what you're doing by assaulting referees, assaulting opposition spectators, is making sure that your team, who is performing so well on the field, is not given a due chance to lift this trophy. And that's something that Dharmaraja supporters really have to make sure that they don't do. While doing this, you are letting your own team down. You're not letting anyone else down. So you must make sure that this sort of incident doesn't happen. The team needs to go and talk to their supporters and say, look guys, we don't need this. We're fine to beat these people 15 on 15 or 22 on 22. We don't need you guys coming in and doing things on the field and assaulting referees. We just need to be able to play the game, and look at us now. We are unbeaten, and we're going to remain unbeaten. So you guys just cheer, and that's all you need to do. And that's something that absolutely needs to happen. Then we had on Thursday we had Isipatana playing St. Peter's, and despite the fact that Isipatana are now under a bit of a cloud for discipline, they were given almost 5 or 6 yellow cards in that game, and they were a man down much of that time. But St. Peter's, who have really had the wheels fall off their season in the last couple of weeks, just couldn't compete. 22 points, 21 points to 19 was how that one finished. So that was a little unfortunate for St. Peter's, because they came close but not close enough. And Isipatana will have their second win of the competition so far. They looked like they were going to be in relegation trouble, but now coming up with their second win, they're on par with 5 teams who all have 2 wins each. So this relegation battle is looking like it's hotting up even more than the championship battle is at the top of the table. So that's something that we need to look out for as well. Any of these teams in the final week, that is Science College, Kingswood College, St. Anthony's, St. Joseph's and Isipatana, could all go down. So this is something that we've got to really keep our eyes on as well, as much as at the top. And then we had, of course, the Bradby, which was the main talking point of the season. We'll get back to that, of course, after we talk about the Blase Trophy. That Blase Trophy was between Kingswood and Wesley. It's nice to see the tournament the trophy being revived, and Kingswood and Wesley drawing that game. Unfortunately for both teams, they would have loved the win, and I think Rahul De Silva's side can count themselves a bit unlucky that they didn't manage to win that one. They have been the form team when compared to these teams with each other. So Kingswood really have not been spending too much money or time on their rugby this year, so they will be happy with whatever results they're able to achieve, and this is one of those results that they will be very, very happy with. So a draw in the Blase Trophy, but good to see it being continued, and good to see it being continued in good spirit. Off to Pallakale for a gloomy Kandy, where Trinity College took on Royal College, and it was a brilliant game for Royal. In the first half, 18 points to 8 was how they finished it, but at the end of the first half, they had their captain and playmaker Rimsi Jamaldeen concussed in a tackle, quite legally of course, by Shahim Singalakshana. And when that was really the tackle that turned the match, even though it resulted in a try. And the fact is that Rimsey was just all over the place in the second half. He was kicking badly out of hand, and he was carrying the ball back into his 22, brought pressure back on his team several times by kicking the ball directly out from his 22. And there was some real falling away of the Royal team when they realized that their talisman and captain had been hampered by that concussion. So there was also a yellow card for the Royal winger, who made an ugly tip tackle on Dureka Aluviharu. Dureka, of course, just got up and carried on with business. That's good to see, but it could easily have been a red card, and I think Jonathan Kaplan was very lenient when he gave the yellow card, because there was clearly no malicious intent. It was just very reckless, and I think the Royal winger was lucky to get away there. But Jonathan Kaplan allowing that game to flow. I think many of the people who have been watching this entire season of schools rugby would say that this was probably one of the best games of the season so far, because it was such open, entertaining rugby. Trinity College coming back from an 18-8 deficit and scoring 29 points in the second half to finish that game, 37 points to 25. It was 25-26 for a long time, but then Royal just went completely off the boil in the last 10 minutes, and superior Trinity fitness coming back and sorting that one out. So Trinity really executing better on the day. They scored a lovely first phase stride through Lakwin Gunasekara. A couple of their tries were lucky, but this one there was nothing lucky about that at all, and they made a really good effort there to score that first phase tries. First time I've seen Trinity running dangerously. But distributing nicely as well. Sanchana Sheikh scored the other try, which was very good, well created when Royal were one man down, and they also executed against Royal's attack very well. They managed to field the high balls that were thrown at them, pretty well, not thrown, kicked at them fairly well, and they also had counter opposition strategy for the Royal College Mall. They were sacking it as the jumper came down, which is again completely legal and nicely policed by Jonathan Kaplan as well. So I think there's a little bit more tactical preparation on Trinity's side, and I think that tactical preparation, if it shifts the other way in 2 weeks' time, we may just have a game on our hands. I don't think this Bradby is over by a long shot, even though there is a 12-point margin. But what's more important for Trinity is that they got the win, and with that W, they still stay at second place behind Dharmaraja. Of course, there is an inquiry going to be conducted into the match between Dharmaraja and St. Joseph's, and if that inquiry is something happens against Dharmaraja and there may be docked points or something like that, this league table could all change, because Dharmaraja is at the top right now, Trinity are second, Wesley are third, St. Peter's somehow managed to remain in fourth place, Royal College in fifth place. That might change. There might be an up and down there, of course. And then, like I told you, those 5 teams at the bottom we have with 2 wins each: Science College, Kingswood College, St. Anthony's, St. Joseph's and Isipatana. So any of those teams really could go down. So it's all to play for every one of those teams. Actually, 2 of those teams could go down, so it's all to play for 2 of those teams. So looking forward, of course, to the Bradby, but one game that did not happen because the referees have pulled out after the Dharmaraja versus St. Joseph's incident. The referees have said, look, that's it, final straw, we are not going to be blowing any more games, and that's the end of that. So I spoke to Dinka Peris on the score on Monday evening, and what he said was the referees have decided to take this stance, and until further notice they will not be blowing in the tournament. The Schools Rugby Association has been informed. They had an emergency meeting yesterday. We still don't know the outcome of that meeting, so at the moment it doesn't look like this weekend's matches will go ahead. So that's the story for now. We also had St. Anthony's versus Science, which did not go ahead on Sunday, which was unfortunate, although the Science College supporters and the team had travelled all the way from Colombo to Kandy, and they were told once they got to the ground that the referees were not going to turn up. So that was a bit of an unfortunate logistical issue, but I think the referees really do need to take a stance now. But while the referees take a stance, it's important for the referees to realize that they also need to improve. But what we as supporters and lovers of rugby need to understand, and as players and schoolboys as well, what we need to understand is the fact that however wrong a referee is, you just have to accept what he's doing. And there's a way in which you protest a referee's decision, there's a way in which you protest the appointment of a referee, there's a way in which you protest a result, and jumping onto the field and assaulting people is not the way to do that. There is a process in which that happens, and please use those processes. They have been explained to your masters in charge. There's safety procedures, there's policies for after game, there's citing procedures. Please use those procedures. Do not resort to violence, because there's just more than enough of that going on in this country as it is. We don't need schools rugby going down that mess as well. So let's wait and see what happens. The tournament is at the moment suspended. Let's wait and see what the SLSRFA tells us in the upcoming days. We'll keep you posted on as soon as that happens, of course, here on www.TheScore.lk. Hope you enjoyed the live stream of the Bradby on TheScore.lk, and make sure that you tune in for the second leg as well, and all the other matches that we'll be bringing you live on this website, www.TheScore.lk. My name is Shanaka. That's our roundup for this last 3 weeks action. We'll be back with you, of course, next week, updating you on what's been going on. Until then, don't go anywhere.